Alrighty, let's review a simple quick mask. So the idea with a quick mask is that it is an extension of a selection. And I can make a selection a number of different ways. Remember that I can modify a selection. I can start with a selection. Often the selection is imperfect. So often when I create a selection, I may need to use Shift to add to the selected region or Alt to subtract from a selected region. The idea with a quick mask is that I can make a very refined selection. So I go into quick mask one of two ways. One is I click the quick mask button at the bottom of your toolbar, or I tap Q and I'm in quick mask mode. How do I know if I am in quick mask mode? My layer will turn red, and then up at the top, instead of it saying RGB, it'll say quick mask. And so now what I can do is I can take my paintbrush and I can paint over the area. Now, the way this works is that when I paint down, black will put down a red protective region. And that means that this area will not be editable. And the idea with this is that it's a way to select. So the idea is that whenever I'm masking or selecting is because I want to edit one part of my document and not another. All right. I can hit Control plus to zoom in, spacebar to move around. I can change the size of the brush with the left and right square bracket keys. And I can change the quality of the brush as well. If I go up to my brush menu and I can choose a soft or hard nib, I'm going to leave it on soft for now, and I can paint over the image as I edit and make a refined selection. Usually what I do is I use a large brush to cover the interior, and then I'll make a smaller brush to run along the edge, and I can change that size of the brush on the fly. If I make a mistake, oops, 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 I can swap the foreground and background color. I want white in the foreground. White scrapes away the mask. Sometimes it's easier to paint up to the edge and then scrape it back than it is to paint directly to the edge. And I can make a very refined mask region using the quick mask tool. On the keyboard, if I want to swap the foreground and background colors, it's X. X will swap the foreground and background swatches, and that can be very helpful as well. There's no need to paint with any color other than black and white or perhaps gray, because any color, when I'm using quick mask, it will just be translated to the actual color itself. Anyway, it's not looking at the color, it's looking at the value of the color. And so I just want to paint this thing in. I'm going to do this a little faster than I would if I were working for real, so you don't have to sit here and watch me paint over this thing in perpetuity. I'm going to paint over this thing, Control 0. There's my quick mask. Now, quick masks in of themselves are useless. I have to convert the quick mask back into a selection. I tap Q, and I have created a selection. So what is selected and what is not? The trick that I like to use is to grab my paintbrush and scrub through the image and see what part of the image is receiving paint and which part isn't. As you can see right now, undo. I'm going to undo that scrub through. I can see that the background is selected and the foreground isn't. So I can do something to the background. I could change the color of the background. I could fill it. I'll go to Edit and choose Fill. Choose a color. Let's say I choose a foreground color, click OK. It's going to fill just the background. I'm going to undo that. I could also take the selection and invert it. If I go up to Select and choose Inverse, now I've selected the little birdie here. I can go to Image, Adjustments, and make any kind of adjustment to the bird, and the background will not be affected. Okay? Now, I want to show you one more thing, and that is the idea of saving a selection. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're going to need to reuse a selection, you can save the selection and call it back up. So if I go up to Select, I go down to Save Selection, I give the selection a name, I'll call it Bird Selected. And I want to save it as a new channel. It's my only option right now. I click OK. and I have successfully saved the selection, I can go up to select and choose deselect. And anytime I want, I can call that selection back up. I go up to selection, I choose load selection. Right now, the only selection I have is the one I just created. I click OK. It's going to drop that selection back down. And the idea with this is that it is a labor-saving device where if I find myself in a situation where I'm going to reuse a selection, let's say that I use a selection to do colorize, and then I want to apply, say, a filter. I'll go to filter gallery. Now I'll apply a filter to the image. Colored pencil looks really good. I'm going to apply colored pencil to the image, and I'm going to adjust the pencil width and pressure and the paper brightness, and click OK. And the whole idea is that I've applied that filter through the selection. I can drop that selection down anytime I like. I'm going to turn that off. Edit, undo filter gallery. I'm going to turn the selection off, select deselect. And so that is a run through on your basic quick mask and saving selections. Now, one more thing, I can actually start with a selection. Let's say I grab my object selection tool. I'm going to zoom out, excuse me, and I do an object selection. I can actually create an object selection and then tap Q to enter quick mask mode. Okay, and then refine the selection after entering quick mask mode. So I'm going to turn that off and I'm going to deselect. So the idea is that I can go directly into quick mask mode, or I can start with a selection and then refine the selection in quick mask mode. And the whole idea with quick masks is that I can make a more refined selection.